Hey guys, and welcome back to the live stream. Today we're going to be speaking about how to pick an Oxford college for my prospective Oxford students. And today I'm going to be joined by Jess as well, who will introduce herself shortly. But yeah, make sure you send in your questions, like this live stream, and yeah, let's get going. So yeah, Jess, do you just want to introduce yourself, tell the people what college you go to, how's everything going?
Hi guys, I'm Jessica. I'm a second year medic going into third year in October, and I study at Corpus Christi College, Oxford. I don't really know what else to say. I mean, I'm really interested in stuff like this because I'm the old Oxford African and Caribbean Society Vice President. Some of you may not know what that is, but you can like ask that as a question down below and we'll get to it. And I just love doing stuff like this. So.
Cool. I was gonna say, Jess, you better flex that you were the old vice president for the ACS because that's something to flex. Jess goes to Corpus Christi. So if any of you guys have any questions about picking colleges, especially like Corpus Christi, do send them in. And yeah, I'm like, you guys will know that I go to Brasenose College. I like to brag that it is the friendliest and best colleges. Jess, I don't want to hear anything about that. But yeah, make sure you guys send in any questions and we'll try and get through them in the space of this live stream. So first question sent in was by Lifestyles and More Yes, who asks, are any of the colleges cheaper to live in than others? Do you want me to start, Jess?
Should I go first or should you?
I don't know. Usually we do some
I don't
telepathic
mind.
thing where we just like work it out. I don't know. But yeah, go for it.
Um, well, because Oxford is just like it's basically like any other UK university. So in terms of like the actual price of academics, you're going to be paying the same £9,250 that everyone else is. Um, so like in terms of that, that's not a concern. Obviously, maintenance loans, everyone has different maintenance loans because they're means tested. So you may get different maintenance loans to your friend. Um, but no college, I would say, is drastically more or less expensive to live in. Obviously, there are slight differences in like, say, if you get like band A accommodation as opposed to band B, or if you decide to eat in your college hall every day as opposed to making your own food, say if your hall doesn't have a kitchen, then like that will probably add a little bit more to your expense. But I'd say it's not a considerable amount because my friends, we all go to different colleges, um, and none of them are particularly like pressed about their financial situation in college, because colleges tend to be quite like the same, basically.
Yeah, exactly as Jess said, there isn't that big of a difference between colleges. I guess one thing I can speak about is like kind of funding that different colleges offer. Some colleges are more kind of like nice and generous with the bursaries that they give students. At Brasenose, I know that every student is entitled to like a £50 book grant at the start of I think the first two terms, I believe. So that just enables students to kind of get used to like live it like transitioning into adulthood, and it also means that if you want to buy a textbook just for yourself, for example in medicine, the textbook that everyone tends to get for themselves is the Oxford Handbook to Medical Sciences, right? That's like the medical bible that everyone gets, and with that £50 grant you can buy that for yourself. There isn't that much pressure to buy other textbooks for yourself because oh, okay, my sister just popped in the back. Because at Oxford, the libraries usually have enough copies of all the main textbooks. So I've never been in a situation where I've needed a textbook and I haven't been able to find it. And if you are in that situation, you can just like tell your college librarian and they usually order it in and it gets there like 2 days. There isn't like a college which is specifically cheaper than others, but these are factors that you can like take into consideration. Next question sent in by Esther, my sister. Oh, okay. Hey, Esther. She asks, how was your day? Oh, she's always here with the cute questions. Jess, how have you been today? How's your lockdown been?
Um, my day's been very unproductive, but I think unproductive days are very nice. Like they're necessary. So yeah, I had a good day, but I didn't do anything.
Fair enough. My day's been okay. I've just been really, really lazy. I had a cheeky lion in the morning. Um, haven't been up to much. But yeah, thanks for the question, Esther. Send in some more. Next question sent in by Lucian Priscilla, and she asks, oh, okay. It seems like the subscribers are speaking to each other in the comments section. Right, let's move on to the next question. Alicia asks, what do you think is the lowest GCSE grades that Oxford and Cambridge will accept? I guess this depends on like the course that you're applying to, right?
Yeah. But also, like, in terms of GCSEs, oh, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. I think there's lag in the a bit. But in terms of GCSEs, most tutors will say this to you, especially like if you go to Oxford or Cambridge and you ask them like, what GCSEs do I need? They'll tell you there's no minimum requirement, and that's true, because your whole application is basically contextualized, and what they mean by that is that everything that you do is put in the context of, you know, what school that you went to, like what sort of people, like how people at your school are performing, what area you live in, whether or not a lot of people go to university from your area or not that many people do, your race, gender, etc. So the ideal GCSE number for you is going to be very different to the ideal GCSE number for another person, which is why there's no real, like, most tutors won't tell you, oh, you need to get this amount of GCSEs. And also some people have a really hard time around GCSEs. They don't really get the grades that they want, but then they bring it back at A levels and, you know, they end up being amazing candidates for Oxford or Cambridge. So it's really like, don't focus on what's happened in the past or whatever grades you have gotten, just focus on the grades that you can get. Focus on the things that you can change. So that's what I would say.
And just to kind of like illustrate what Jess said, a few of my friends have like got at GCSEs, they were going through kind of hard times, so they didn't perform as well as they knew they could have, so they didn't get the best GCSEs that you'd expect from a stereotypical Oxford person. They didn't get all A stars. However, you know, they went on to do really well in their first year of A levels. They went on to kind of perform really well, so their teachers predicted them high grades. You know, they did really well in their application process, and Oxford are aware that there are extenuating circumstances for certain applicants, and they will take that into consideration. And yeah, a couple of my friends didn't get all A stars or didn't get a single A star at GCSE. But what I can say is I definitely recommend checking out the website for your particular course, because they will include all the details that you need to see, and also emailing maybe the admissions team just for further confirmation. Yeah, hopefully that helps. Next question sent in by Didy Mody, and she asks, are all colleges the same in terms of the facilities, the resources, accommodation, or are they different? I think the answer to this is like really simple, because they are so different. So essentially the colleges these predate like back centuries and centuries, and they were like transformed into Oxford colleges. So naturally, like, the facilities that college offers is going to be different in terms of like the buildings, in terms of the size, and one of the distinct things between colleges are that some of them do include gyms, sports grounds. For example, LMH have a massive sports ground for like tennis, netball, whereas other colleges, which tend to be more central, are a lot smaller, so they can't really facilitate for that. However, Oxford have like a really good scheme for some of the colleges for like the sports centre. So I know at Brasenose, because we don't have a gym in college, they're like affiliated to the sports centre, so we get a free gym membership there. So yeah, you don't like, it kind of levels out. I don't know if you have anything to add, Jess.
Yeah, I just say Oxford's weird because colleges are all kind of like, by nature, they're all very similar in the fact that they're all colleges. They all have like, you know, the same rough kind of structure. But like Francesca said, like they're just so different in terms of like she mentioned funding. Some colleges are very what's the word? I can't think of it. It starts with a G. Generous, that's it. Some of them are generous with their funding. Some of them are really stingy. Some of them have
really stingy.
Some of them are like, yeah, some are stingy. But they make up for it in other ways. Some colleges are really sports heavy. So like you said, like a sports ground is going to be like for a college that does rowing, I don't know, like, and wins every single rowing competition, they're more likely to have like an amazing rowing house and all that stuff, or whatever rowing equipment you need. But yeah, that I wouldn't really have anything else to add because you kind of covered everything.
But Jess, another thing we need to speak about is the accommodation situation. Jess will know that I have complained and complained about the differences in accommodation because at Brasenose, not a single first year student is offered an ensuite unless you need one for medical reasons. And I didn't know that going into Brasenose College because I did my unique summer school at Brasenose, but I was living in the second year accommodation. So I thought, wait, okay, this is okay. Maybe, all accommodations like this. And the answer is no, it's not. Whereas when I went to Corpus Christi, which is Jess's college, and I saw that like literally every first year student had an ensuite, I was devastated. I must say I was devastated. So definitely
to be fair, I actually didn't have an ensuite in first year. I had to, because I lived in a house.
You lived in a house?
Because like we just had a lot of freshers in my year.
Okay, yeah,
so I lived in a house in first year. But it was quite nice though, because I was like one of the only first years. So like whilst everyone else had ensuites, not everyone had kitchens. So I was one of the only people that had like a nice like fully decked out kitchen. Because the rest of them had to share like one kitchen between like 60 or 70 of them. But I was like, I could just wake up in the morning and make myself Christy. I'm actually so sorry.
Oh, I have to disclaim this in the video, but if there's anyone who likes cooking their own food, you want to cook some traditional food, I must say again, Brasenose first year don't offer kitchens. Now that's not a reason not to apply to Brasenose because strengths in other places, but it's something to be aware of because the first day I arrived to college I was expecting to see a kitchen, not a fridge and a microwave on top of it, but I mean it hasn't stopped me. Like if I needed to cook, I'd just go to my second year friend's accommodation, so yeah. I'm just like complaining. But yeah, is there anything else we can add to this question, Jess? Or
I don't think so. I think I can't. Oh, one thing. This is actually not to do with like accommodation. Well, it is kind of. One thing that you have to bear in mind, not all of you will be of the uni going age. Obviously, some of you are like, you're getting to the point where you're thinking about A-levels and all that stuff, so you may not be at that stage yet. But when you do get to uni, I want you all to bear this in mind, that people do not have the same cleanliness or home training that you do. So, whether it's sharing kitchens or bathrooms, you have to prepare yourself. You have to prepare yourself. Because the way that why was my shower dry? 4 days out of 7 in a week my shower was dry. I was the only one using it, and I lived with it was like me and 6 other people sharing a shower, and it was dry every single morning.
Now guys, regardless of what college you end up at, guys, just be aware, as Jess said, that not everyone will have had the same like home training as you. When I got to university, it was the first time that I realized people peed in their sink, and I will never be the same again. I will never be the same person. I will never be. So the same sink that they use to fill their water bottles and to wash their dishes is the same sink that they're peeing in. Yeah, guys, just be aware that university is an interesting place. Right, let's move on to the next question swiftly before we actually scare everybody. Next question sent in by Visualized by Anonymous asks, could you change colleges later on? So I guess this is a good question for like medics out there because that is like a prospect.
I think it's like ideally you wouldn't go into university thinking I'm gonna change colleges once I get there. So like I do want to stress actually like researching your college and like choosing one that's suited to you, so that you're happy with your decision. However, the only instances that I have like seen with my own eyes of people changing colleges have been to do with them changing their subject. So if there's a reason, like for example, colleges in Oxford, they offer like they don't all offer the same subjects. So like one college may offer medicine and biochemistry, and then one may not offer medicine and biochemistry, but instead they may offer like classics and English, for example. Um, so if you're someone that wanted to change subjects once you get to university, and your college doesn't offer the subject you want to change to, then it could be a situation where you end up going to a different college. And that happened to a girl who changed courses to biochemistry in my year. She moved from one college to another. But I don't know what other reasons the uni may allow you to switch colleges. Um, like welfare reasons, but I'm not entirely sure.
So I haven't like seen this being done, but I'm assuming that if you say weren't enjoying your time at that like college for like special reasons, I'm sure you could appeal to the university and they would sort it out. I'm not like, I'm sure the university wouldn't be like, no, you have to stay at this college regardless. Like the university tends to be very understanding, especially if you've got a reason to change colleges. But as Jess said, because you know you've applied to that college, it's so important like beforehand that you research the college, research what they offer, research whether it'd be best suited for you. Because once you're in that college, it tends to be quite difficult to move around. Another thing that I can say is, oh, I've just lost my train of thought. Oh right, it came back. For medicine, because there's like a preclinical clinical split, you actually graduate after 3 years from the preclinical school, and you have to kind of like apply to university again. Jess, correct me if I'm wrong. But you can actually apply to. Am I wrong? Jess's mouth just went.
It's not that you apply to university again. It's basically like if you pass the end of your 3 years, then you automatically go into the next 3 years. So it's like you don't. It's not like they're gonna say you're gonna get kicked out. But Fran is right. You do get to apply to different. You can choose to apply to different colleges. So you can either stay on at the college that you're currently on, or you can go to like a graduate college because technically you are a postgrad at that point and an undergrad at the same time. It's very weird how the system works. But yeah, you can change colleges at that point.
Jess, a question for you because I'm not actually sure. Are there any like mature colleges in Oxford? Because I'm aware that there are some in Cambridge for like students who might be a bit older than like 18, 19.
I don't actually think that Oxford has any mature colleges. Pretty much colleges. You can basically just go at any age. So I have people, there are people in the year below me who are actually a year older than me. So they're 21, but they just got into first year. Whereas in Cambridge, I think it's like once you get to a certain age, like you kind of have to apply to a mature college. I don't think that the same system works in Oxford, but they do have like postgrad and graduate colleges. But I don't, to my knowledge, there's no mature colleges.
Cool. Right, we'll move on to the next question. And this is a pretty good one. Why did you choose the colleges that you're actually at? So why did you choose Corpus Christi?
I would not recommend this to anyone at all because my whole medicine application. In fact, I was gonna do a YouTube video about this because I wanted to tell everyone what not to do.
Subscribe to our channel,
I did
guys.
everything wrong. But yeah, um, I basically with my whole medicine application, I just went off pure vibes. Like I just like it was honestly no sense, just vibes, like pure vibes. I think I was telling Fran this. So when it
I remember
came to
this.
apply to my college, the only university besides I thought of Edinburgh and Oxford properly, and Oxford was the only university that I actually like went to the open day and like properly invested time in. So like I was just going through all the colleges, and I didn't really have any like rhyme or reason to it. I didn't know anything about funding. I didn't know about like the college vibe, like whether or not they do sports or music or whatever. So I just walked into Corpus after like I think I'd seen like 7 colleges maybe that day. And I walked in, I was like, this is a vibe. Like I just love the vibe. And that was it. I just cruised off that vibe. And that was I had nothing. I knew nothing else about the college. Nothing else. Nothing. Even to the day that I put it down on my UCAS, I'm applying to Corpus, I still knew nothing. And yeah, that's literally that's it. But it turned out well for me,
Thank God.
because
Thank God it
it
did.
turns out that like my college, yeah, thank goodness. But I mean, if you're a person who likes to just go with the flow and go with the vibe, then obviously you can do what I did, but I wouldn't recommend it. But yeah, it turns out that my college actually ends up having like good funding, like a really good environment. Like I really like the people that go to my college and like the sort of like the sort of vibe that my college has. And yeah, it does have a lot of things that I wanted in a college, so I'm not mad at all. I'm very happy with where I go.
Now, I remember Jess telling me that she just went off vibes, and I couldn't help myself. I was just laughing the whole time because it's just so. Nah, man, respect to you because you actually ended up at a college you like, which is great. For me, it was slightly different. I'm not a vibesy person. I guess I'm like one of the main reasons why I picked Brasenose was because I went on a summer school there. I went to the Unique Summer School, shout out, and they randomly assign you to a college, and Brasenose was the one that I lived in. That was the summer school that I was living in second year accommodation, and I was deceived that my accommodation would be the same in first year, which it wasn't. But going back to the point, I really enjoyed the place, the location, the people there. And, I was just like, okay, right, I've been to Oxford. I went to Brasenose College. I enjoyed myself. Why not apply? And I ended up applying, getting an interview there, and getting an offer in the end. And I mean, looking back now at my first year, I have enjoyed Brasenose. It's very, very central. Like the Radcam, which is that massive bless you.
Sorry.
The Radcam, which is that central building that everyone, like all the tourists know about, is right outside of Brasenose. It basically belongs to us. I don't want to hear anything else. The Radcam belongs to Brasenose. The land, Radcliffe Square?
Bold claim.
Okay, yeah, okay. The Radcliffe Square, where the Radcam is situated, that belongs to Brasenose. Just saying.
But the actual, like, the library, as in everyone can go who's a student of Oxford University. So...
Okay, now you're getting into the specifics, Jess. But yeah, Brasenose is very
was that specific?
Brasenose was very, very central. Like everything is a 5-10 minute walk away. So it means that if I'm running late, which I usually am, I can the latest I'll get to a place is 5-10 minutes. So it's really good for me. But yeah, I chose my college because I went on a summer school there, I guess. Right, moving on to the next question, sent in by Didy. And she asks, do you change your accommodation dorm rooms every year at college?
It depends on your college, but the blanket answer I'm going to say is yes.
No, sorry. My friend keeps ringing me in the middle of my live stream. She keeps doing this. Carry on. I declined the call. Sorry, Michelle.
The blanket answer, like the very simplified answer, is yes. Because most colleges have this kind of system of like you ballot for rooms. So basically, everyone in your college has some sort of like ranking for accommodation, just for accommodation, nothing to do with your academics or anything, literally just for accommodation. A lot of colleges just put names into a random generator, and then whoever ends up on top ends up on top. And it's by that order that you can pick what room you want to live in. So you could very well end up living in the same room for 3 years because you're just lucky and you end up being able to choose your room for 3 years. Or if you end up lower down the ballot list, you may not necessarily get your first choice of room. But I would say that most college accommodation is like, it's decent. Like it may not be a 5-star hotel, but it's definitely manageable. And like, I think most people, like, they're not suffering, even if it's not ideal for them.
I love how Jess had to rephrase that. Yeah, I do kind of disagree on that last point that Jess said about how like most accommodation is decent. Because hear me out. The accommodation itself is good, but sometimes the price doesn't match what you're getting. So that brings the quality down for me. So personally, at Brasenose, they do it in terms of banding. So the top accommodation is band A. That's usually a massive room, the size of like a living room and a half. And you usually get an ensuite and a separate like bedroom to your main. It's really complicated. And that's usually the most expensive. Whereas it goes down to like band G, which is like the worst accommodation, very, very small. But it's still like relatively expensive. And I think one of the main reasons is because Brasenose is very, very central. And obviously, just like any normal city, the more central you get, the more expensive the accommodation is. But yeah, as Jess said, when you go from first year to second year, you change accommodation. A lot of colleges have like annexes, so like a second site of accommodation for second, third year students. For some colleges, it's like a 10-15 minute walk between the main site college and the second year accommodation. But for Brasenose, it's literally 5 minutes, which is really convenient for me. But yeah, next year, because I was on the ballot, unfortunately, I came out 80th, which was like towards the bottom. So everyone picked the better accommodation before I picked mine. So mine's like another box room yet again. But you know what? I'm just counting my blessings at this point. Next question sent in by Alicia. And she asks, will student finance or student maintenance cover band A accommodation? Obviously, it depends on which colleges you're applying to and how much it costs. But yeah, I think it depends on how much maintenance you get. I was entitled to the full maintenance, so I had more than enough to cover my accommodation. The nice thing about Oxford, I don't know if this is nice actually, is that they kick you out at the end of every term. So you have to take your stuff and you need to go at the end of every term, unless you apply for you need to go unless you apply for like extended tenancy. So that means that over the vacation you don't pay. So I guess that brings down the costs, the average cost of accommodation down, because at other universities you have to pay even over the holidays, but at like Oxford you only pay for the 8-week term that you stay. So it comes out like a little bit more cheaper. Maintenance loan covered, band A options for me, but again it depends on what your household income is like, because that's what the government will base how much maintenance they give you. Jess, do you have anything to add?
Some colleges are really, so like, for example, I can only speak on Corpus really. So Corpus is really good in terms of that, like, accommodation across the board is quite standardized. So like some Oxford colleges, because they're so old, you'll get like this is kind of referencing the last question as well. Some Oxford colleges, because like they're so old, they'll have like huge rooms with like fireplaces and like en suites and I don't know, like a whole other living room attached to it, and that will be like band B. And then you have another band B room that's like tiny, and yeah, it's just because the colleges are so old, it's hard to standardize room sizes and stuff like that. But a lot of colleges, especially the more modern ones, or the ones that have had work done more recently on them, they're quite like standard. So like the rooms also tend to be around the same price. I know in Corpus, like between like, we only have band A and band B, I think, maybe band C. But like between like band A and band C, there's like probably a difference of like £200 a term. So it's not actually like it's like quite a comfortable margin. But for me, I was band B in first year, and my student loan didn't cover that. So I think I paid with my own money like £200 extra a term, and this year my accommodation was around the same price again. So it was kind of like the same situation of me paying around like £200 extra or something in terms of my own money. But college do offer things like bursaries and etc. So like, don't ever let finances be something that concerns you. Whilst I did have to pay that extra money, it wasn't something, because I had the support of college, it wasn't something that I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna die, like I'm gonna go destitute and broke. I'm gonna be eating ice and water for breakfast. Like, yeah.
She said ice and water. Okay, I hope that's answered your question. We're going to move on to the next one, which was sent in by Lifestyles and More Yes, who asks, was diversity a big factor in you picking your college?
You want to go first? Because
I was actually waiting for you to answer the question. Oh, okay.
because the way that I just went on vibes, like I can't even say anything.
That's so jokes. That's so jokes. Well, for me, I didn't even realize, I didn't really deep the problem of diversity at Oxford. So for me, I was expecting to go to Oxford and expecting it to be as diverse as my home city, which is like it's metropolitan, very, very diverse. You know, there's more ethnic minorities than there are majorities in the area that I live. But I guess when I got to Oxford, it was a massive culture shock because, especially at Brasenose, diversity isn't that great. There's only four black people in a college of 500 plus students. So yeah, diversity has, or the lack of it, has really shaped my experiences at Oxford. I didn't go off diversity because I didn't realize it was a problem, but looking back now, if I was applying this year, maybe it's something I'd take into consideration, but again, I wouldn't allow that to be the determining factor, because the truth is, between colleges there's only a small percentage difference in the level of diversity. But it is true to say that some colleges are a lot more diverse in terms of, say, you know, a proportion of state school educated students to private school educated students, such as Mansfield. I have to shout that one out. And yeah, so yeah, you can take that into consideration if that's something that you know will impact your experience at university. And all the data is released in Oxford's annual report of diversity. I'll put it in my description. Hopefully I remember. But yeah, check that out. Jess just went off vibes, so unfortunately she's kind of redundant for this question.
Yeah, I mean, I probably would have taken diversity into account. But one thing I will say is, just because you have a lot of friends in college because that's where you spend most of your time. But even though my college it's not the most diverse college, I found a lot of diversity through my outside connections, like through societies like the African and Caribbean Society, through like the sports I play, and just like I feel like ethnic people in Oxford just tend to find each other.
Just gravitate towards each other.
We just find each other. So yeah, like college isn't the only place you can find friends, and bear that in mind. That's
so true. And I guess, Jess, you can elaborate on ACS, which for me has been my home away from home. Like, even though my college hasn't been the most diverse, I know that I have an ACS event to look forward to, or I'll make friends through the ACS, which means that I still get that almost touch of normality through the society, which you were the vice president of. Another flex. Why are you even blushing? Why are you acting shy?
You know I'm shy. Stop it.
Lol. Cool. Okay, I'm gonna move on to another question. Oh, I don't know if I've answered these ones. Right. A question sent in by Ella Jones, and this is more general, asks, how do you keep up with your studying? This one makes me laugh because Jess is the queen of unserious candidacy, if that's a word. But yeah.
That's so funny.
Okay, right. Okay, I'm gonna try and tackle this question first, because I did sports in my first year, which forced me to like keep up with my studying and be more productive. I didn't realize the level of commitment that was needed for sports, but essentially I was training 4 or 5 times a week, and I had to attend every training session. So it meant that when I had my deadlines, I had to do my work by then. How do I keep up with studying? I guess it's the most important thing to do is always know what you need to do. So for me, timetabling really helps, because I'm physically seeing what I need to do, the deadlines for it, what are the commitments I have to do, what other events I want to attend. And another thing is prioritizing. There are certain times that I had to sacrifice going to an event because, you know, I had to do this essay so that I could submit it on time, so then I could go to netball training. So it's so important that you know what you want from your university time. You know, do you want to have a really, really good time in first year? Or do you want to get a first at the end of first year? Do you want to become an Olympic professional sports player? You need to ask yourself the question. And sometimes you have to sacrifice, you know, other commitments, social commitments, because the way I was visualizing it is that I'm not paying £9,250 per year to come to university to, you know, just be going out, or I'm not paying 9k to come to university just to be doing sports. I can do sports back at home, you know. So for me, it was definitely prioritizing things, learning how to timetable. My diary came in handy so much, and also finding out what your motivation is. That really kept me going, especially throughout like the dark times in my academic journey. Yeah, Jess, if you want to elaborate.
So I don't know if you guys are getting like the general sense of like my personality and who I am as a person, but I am very like vibes are just very key to like how I function
Vibes.
as a human being. Um, I find it I find it extremely generally in class situations I find it really hard to focus. Um, and I'm just like a very like fidgety, like very like easily distracted person when it comes to like those like very intense like class situations. So like all throughout secondary school and sixth form, like I would learn little bits in class, but it wasn't like as the content got harder, it was harder for me to stay focused. So most of my stuff was self-taught. And the same thing kind of transferred into uni. So like I didn't learn too much through like lectures and seminars and all that stuff, which meant that all of my learning basically it had to be structured myself. Um, and I also am a very like I'm a very active person. Like I did in my first year, I played rugby for the university. I
Man,
was
like,
the junior PR. I was a junior PR officer for the Oxford ACS. And I was also a subject ambassador for my college. And just like I basically went to every event possible. Like I was just very active. And the one thing I hate doing is working when I don't want to work. So knowing all those things about myself, it was like, how am I going to be able to do all this and kind of not force myself to work at the same time? Um, so for me, I basically made a rule like right before I got to university, and I was like if I wanted to do uni and just get my degree, I could have done it at home from an online degree, or I could have done like open university. Part of me going to university is also the experience of going to university and like the networking and meeting all these people. So that's my priority. So I basically found the events and like I roughly knew what each week would look like what events I wanted to do, what essays I would be getting, what sports I would be playing, stuff like that. And so I kind of get a list of like the extracurricular stuff I wanted to do in the week. Um, and I would plan that and then plan my work around it to an extent. Obviously, I would make sure that everything gets done because I'm not going to my university to fail, God forbid.
God forbid.
But like, I was basically, yeah. And I would kind of do that first. And then obviously, if I realize after planning that like, oh, I'm really not giving myself enough time to do my work, then I might be like, okay, I'll miss this event on Friday or something like that. But generally, my approach was like, let me try and do everything I want to do whilst my work is, I don't know, like make sure that the things I want to do are also a priority. Like, I don't want to just come to this university and suffer. So that's what I did.
Yeah, I think it's important to like know that although first year is like really important, because you're kind of setting the tone for the rest of your academics, it's also a time for you to fit in and have a good time. Essentially, like the worst thing especially for like courses such as medicine, where I've heard from Jess that second year and other people that second year is like harder than first year. You want to enjoy your first year and have good memories to look back on, so it's so important that you factor that in. And it's also helped me quite a lot during term when I was feeling lower than usual. Having that social element is so important in establishing that balance. So yeah, hopefully that's answered your question. We will swiftly move on to the next one, and this was sent in by Leila, who asks, what's the minimum IB score to do medicine in Oxford? I'm not aware of like the score because I didn't do IB, but one thing I can recommend is resort to the website for medicine. I'll try and put it in the description bar below. They'll have all the details you need about the minimum requirements. Yeah, sorry that I didn't know. Next one sent in by Robbie Hicks, and they ask, how does the Oxford system deal with extenuating circumstances in your application? I think he's talking about where the answer that we gave to the question before, about the minimum GCSEs, I think.
But yeah, just Oxford just like because they look at you as an applicant, not just like a series of test scores. Your circumstances are basically like they're basically counted into every decision they make regarding your application. So, yeah, I don't really. Obviously, I'm not on the admissions board, so I can't say exactly what process they use. I can only kind of relay what my tutors have like told me and stuff like that. Um, but it is kind of like your if you have gotten decent marks in a very like testing situation, that will mean more than someone who has had like a very easy situation and perhaps got the same mark as you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly as Jess said. They definitely look at it on a case by case basis, and they always put everything you've done into context. I guess one of the key differences that I've always been made aware of is like differences between, say, someone from a private school applying and someone from a state school background applying. As Jess said, you know, if you had the privilege of being in a private school, which is like amazing and good for you, and you got, say, all A stars at GCSE, which was like average at your school, compared to another applicant who may have came from a state school background where teaching quality wasn't as good. They had supply teachers every so often, and they also got all A stars, or they got all A stars barring one or two, but that for them was abnormal and like absolutely amazing. Oxford will look at that in context and see that maybe that other student is more, you know, worthy than the other student. But again, as Jess said, we're not on the admissions board, so we can't tell you for sure. But they definitely look at your situation in context. Hopefully that's answered your question. Next question sent in. Ooh, leniency by Alicia. She asks, will Oxford Cambridge have leniency for the GCSE class of 2020 because of what's happened with COVID and GCSE grades?
This corona. Oh.
Honestly, Miss Rona just came and ruined everything. Oh my days.
Actually finessed, y'all. She finessed.
I don't know who invited her.
Edges, everything.
Who invited her to the party? It wasn't me.
My assumption, and from like the general, I think my Wi-Fi is cut off.
Oh no, Jess, I can still see you. Carry on. Where's she gone? Jess.
I'm back.
You're back. Okay. You didn't go.
I'm right back.
You didn't go anywhere. Yeah, you're back.
Oh wait, I didn't go.
You didn't go anywhere. You were just like staring at your screen like
lost.
Your laptop was lying to you. Oh no, my earring keeps
going up. That is so funny.
Lol.
Oh my gosh, the devil actually works so hard. The devil works so hard.
Honestly, overtime for sure.
Honestly, I'm convinced that my Wi-Fi is an agent of the devil. I'm not even lying.
Jess was just there like, yeah, my internet connection's gone. But she was still there. I was like, what's this girl on about? Like, if you didn't want to do the live stream, just let me know.
I can't remember what I was saying.
It was about COVID-19 and the class of 2020 for GCSEs.
Oh, yeah. So like the general vibe that I've gotten from the emails I received from like faculty regarding our situation with exams, and like what I've heard in the news, etc. And also from teachers, because I've been in contact with a few of my old teachers. The general vibe is that like they will bear in mind that like there was a whole global pandemic going on, and if they don't, then like how could they not? That's just so like, are you mad? As in a whole global pandemic, and you're not going to give me some leniency? Like, yeah, definitely they will take into account that people were getting like predicted grades as opposed to grades that they had actually achieved, etc. And that, you know, people were like, this whole thing is an extenuating circumstance, so honestly, that will be taken into account.
Honestly, I think the reassuring thing, if you can be reassured during this period, is that COVID-19 affected everyone. So it's not as though you're like, everyone's disadvantages in this situation, but it's not as though you'll be more disadvantaged than others. So like everyone who applies from this GCSE class will have gone through COVID-19 with a few exceptions, but I guess that's kind of reassuring. Yeah, hope that's answered your question. Next one. sent in by Didy, and she asks, do international students have separate housing facilities to native UK students? So, shall I answer first? Cool.
Mm-hmm.
So at Brasenose, it's like everyone has the same like opportunities for accommodation in first year, I'm aware of. So like my friends who were international students were living doors away from me, so everyone is together, which is really, really nice. The one thing I do know is that if you're doing like if you're from another university and you do your year abroad in the UK, you may be put in a different housing facility. So for Brasenose, we're affiliated with Stanford University in America, and all like the Stanford students who come for, I think it's just one term or longer, they all live in something called the Stanford House, which is not too far from main campus university. But I guess it's quite nice because, you know, they'll all know each other, they'll all be going through kind of the same thing, so it's nice to live together. But if you apply to the university as an international student, you'll have the same like accommodation prospects as anyone else, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, basically, yeah, I would agree. Except unless you're like a foreign exchange student, you'll definitely be on like around the same accommodation as like, oh, why can I not speak? You'll be in the same accommodation as local students, basically.
Cool. Cool. Guys, there's so many questions being sent in. I wish we could answer them all in the next few minutes, but I'm going to try and prioritize the one about picking colleges. And then hopefully like in the other live streams we'll tackle the rest. Next question is sent in by Ruki, and she asks, when choosing a college, what three things are you looking for? I keep laughing because every time I get questions about choosing a college, I just remember Jess and her vibes. What three things were your vibes looking for in a college?
Okay. So I think one of the things that actually subconsciously influenced me was the fact that when I walked into my college, the person who led me around was he was Indian. Well, he still is Indian. He didn't stop being Indian. But
Just don't kill me. Don't kill me.
He's Indian. And that was like one of the first tastes of diversity I'd seen all day. So it was like, I think subconsciously that was nice for me to like see an Access ambassador in my college who kind of reflected more of a similar background to what I was used to encountering. And then I remember just like sitting in, I think it was the junior common room. And by the way, the junior common room is basically like, it's a common room for like all undergraduate students in the college. And I was just like chilling there, and I was overhearing like conversations between like the older like actual students in the college, and the way that they were bantering each other was hilarious. Like, I just feel like it was like, for me, actually seeing students who went to the college currently interacting gave me a very good idea of like the sort of conversations that I could be having when I went there, because it gave me like a kind of idea of like the culture of the college, which I found really important. And that was basically the two main things. The third thing I would have taken into account is recently I discovered that my college gives out a fat travel grant to a select few students. And it's not an academic travel grant. It's not anything to do with your degree. In fact, they specifically state in the travel grant, like, don't do anything to do with your degree. Do something that's going to like change you as a person. So you can basically choose wherever you want to go for like some cultural experience. And had I known that free thing existed when I was applying, you best believe that would have cemented,
Wow.
everything. So yeah, I think those would be the three things. But yeah, basically every college tour that I do, because obviously I was a subject ambassador last year, I make sure to tell students, like, these are like the kind of free money things that you can get when you're at this college as well, because I know that could definitely change minds, because it would have changed mine.
For sure. For me, I guess my top three things would have definitely been diversity. Again, not a deciding factor, but something I would have taken into consideration. Some colleges, their diversity is a bit, whereas other colleges, whilst it's still it's slightly better. So that would have been one. Number two would have been the food, whether there's a kitchen or not, or the dining halls, the catering. What's the situation going on with the food? Because I'm a foodaholic. I'm saying that with pride. I'm not ashamed. And food to me is a main part of my life. So, I guess how you can get a taste of this is attending open days, speaking to current students. I think they provide details about the pricing and what they offer online. The third thing, what was the third? Oh yeah, the size of the okay, I have four things. Oh no, I can't count. Okay. The third thing would have been the size of the college. Some colleges are massive. For example, Christchurch is massive. Like Christchurch, I forgot, I can't speak English anymore. Is it the court? The grassy bit in the middle. The quad. The quad of grass is so humongous. I don't know why any college needs that much grass. Like, the size of that grass is probably the same size as my college altogether. And for me, that would have been just too big of a size of college. Whereas Brasenose for me is quite small, quite comfortable. I know my way around. I know everyone who's living on campus at Brasenose. It's quite comfortable to me. So that would have been my third thing. Number 4 would have been the location, which is one of the main reasons why I picked Brasenose. It's very, very central. So some colleges are a train away or a flight away, such as LMH and St. Hugh. They're actually from Central. St. Hugh's and LMH are a good, I'd say, 15-20 minute walk, which for me is just too far.
But they have, I feel like they kind of have their own like city around it, because you're so far away. Like they kind of develop their own coping mechanisms. Like
listen, but I'm here for the central experience, not my own like mini experience at my college.
Shout out to OX1.
Literally OX1 gang. Like I'm pretty sure St. Hugh's and LMH are like OX4 or something. Like, I'm sorry, that's no longer Oxford. That's Banbury or whatever it is. But to be fair, I hope no one like from LMH is gonna come and dislike this video. But to be fair, that college
LMH is an amazing college, by the way.
LMH is a pretty good college, amazing people, and it's quite close to the medicine department. It's like the same distance from Brasenose. So yeah, take that into consideration. How far is it from Central? How far is it from your department? If that's something that obviously I don't like walking personally. But yeah. They were my 4 things. Another question sent in by Lisa Underscore, who asks, is Green Templeton College a mature college? As Jess said, I don't think we technically have any mature colleges, but it is a graduate only college, right? Yeah, cool. Thank you. Next question. This was sent in by Sean. Sean asks, why is Mansfield College the best? Should I just skip it? Let me just skip that one. I'm going to skip that one. He knows why I'm skipping that question. Right. Next one sent in by Priscilla. She asks, what is the situation with catering at your college? Can you explain catering charges or self-catering?
Oh, wait. Oh, sorry. I like... part of me, like... Because I was trying to read the question as you were saying it. So
okay. Sorry. I don't know what's wrong with me. I feel as though like I'm looking at my screen into your eyes, expecting you to see me looking at you, but it doesn't work that way.
No, but I knew what you were doing. Like my soul felt it. You know what I mean? Like I knew what was going on. Okay, so at Corpus, so I kind of mentioned earlier, for freshers, there is basically like there's a house and then there's like a huge freshers block, and there's like 2 or 3 kitchens that freshers therefore can like use between those buildings. For second, third year, etc., if you're not living in one of the college-owned houses, if you're living in actual college, like not one of the college annexes, then there's no kitchen in main site college. So if you have a room there, then you won't have a kitchen. You'll have to rely on whole food or whatever friends you have that are your connects. So for me next year, I'm living in college. However, shout out to Tyrell, that's my guy. He's not watching this, but my friend Tyrell's living in a house that is right next to college. It's a college-owned house with a kitchen. So that is my kitchen now too. So that's my... but in terms of like catering cost, um, college subsidizes like every single meal. So for me, breakfast is like I think it's like £1.38 or like basically like we'll round
Wait,
up to
Jess, you
£2. So
eat
it's
breakfast
roughly.
in hall?
I don't eat breakfast
Okay, I was
because
gonna
for me to
say
wake up at eight on
you don't. Okay,
and have time to eat breakfast,
the thing is,
I
you
wake
don't
up at
even
eight
need
and
to
I
wake up
shower
at
and I go
8.
to.
You just need to be time efficient. So what I was doing last year, I was waking up at about 8:20, and I had time to shower, to eat breakfast, to do anything, and
How
I'd
are
still
you
make it
even
for 9
hungry
a.m.
that early in the morning?
But you need the
I don't
fuel.
get how you're hungry that
You
early
need
in the
the
morning.
energy. You're a medic. I don't even know why you're promoting this sort of behavior.
I don't. No, no. I very much promote the eat when you're hungry, and I am not hungry in the morning. I won't get hungry until like 11 or
Jess, you
12.
know when you said that, I got
I,
like 2 likes on the live. That's jokes. That's so jokes. But honestly,
um,
how can you not have time? You're wait, what are you doing in the morning?
it's because when I wake up, like, do you not when you wake up, are you not angry that you've woken up? Because for me, I wake up and I'm like, the fact that it's 8 in the morning and I'm having to wake up to go to a 9 a.m. lecture, I'm so angry. So I let myself cool off for a little bit. I'll just be sitting in my bed scrolling through my phone, like, okay, well, I'm awake now. I want to go back to bed, but I'm awake. Then, obviously, shower, brush my teeth, all that. And then I like to take time to pick out my outfit. I like to take time to get into the mood for the day. I like to apply a few spritzes of perfume, listen to my music in the background, make sure the playlist is set good. So, like, I think that's why. For me, breakfast is just I just like also after my shower, do you not spend like 10 minutes sitting on your bed? Because
For
that's
my
what I
skin to
do.
get
I would spend
dry.
like
For my skin to get crusty.
no, as in
No.
as in
I have
I'll
to moisturize my
moisturize, but I'll
skin
just
straight
sit there in
away.
my towel just listening to my music.
Just I'm
I
sorry,
told you I'm a
yeah.
very
No,
vibes
we have to
person.
move on. We
It's
have to
all
move
about
on. Because
vibes.
if you carry on speaking, I'm actually just gonna die right now. Right here. I'm gonna die. Right. Moving on. Next question. Alicia asks, what is extended tenancy, and are you allowed to stay at university if you have nowhere to go at the end of each term? So to my awareness, at Brasenose College in first year, if you have like a reason for why you can't go home, you can actually apply to stay over the holidays. One of my friends has done it and I think she pays like reduced accommodation prices because it's cheaper over the holidays. And for me in second year, when before I applied for my accommodation, I was given the option to actually apply for the extended tenancy just in case I needed to be at Oxford to revise for exams. Again, it's college specific, so Jess's college may have different policies to my college, etc. So yeah, Jess, what's the situation like at Corpus Christi?
My Wi-Fi kind of cut out a little bit, so I don't know exactly what you said, so sorry if I repeat anything.
That's fine.
But for I think for Corpus and quite a few, like I know that just I can just say this from my friends, like I know like Wadham, for example, LMH, Jesus, like they all have similar systems to this. Um, if you have an extenuating circumstance that means that you have nowhere to go at the end of each term, then you can, for example, Corpus has 9 month contracts now, so you can stay in university for 9 months, and like pay for like you don't have to move out at the end of term. Some other colleges also have 9 month contracts, but most of them also will allow you to stay in university for like the entire duration of the holidays if it's the case that you actually can't go home. So there won't be a situation where you're just homeless. Like your colleges, they won't allow that to happen because student welfare is something that they have to prioritize. Um, and if it's a thing where it's like you just want to stay in uni, like you don't necessarily have any circumstances that mean you have to, you just want to stay. For my exams in second year, I was actually going to stay for like through like on after term for an additional like 3 weeks, just because I find it very hard to revise at home, and I just wanted to like be close to the libraries and have like the kind of like peace and quiet. Um, and that did cost me like an additional amount of money, but college subsidizes it, so it's not as expensive as you staying in like a hotel or an Airbnb. Like, and my college give us credits as well, so we can take a certain amount of like free night in college before they start charging us a slightly increased fee.
Cool. I hope that's answered your question. We're going to quickly move on to the next one because we're approaching the 1 hour mark. And the next question is sent in by Didy Mody Do, and she asks, do you often interact with students from other colleges? And I think another one of her questions were, what are the sort of events available for you to interact with students from other colleges? So in my experience, Freshers Week is an absolute madness because there's events left, right and centre. Every society tends to do like a Freshers Week event to allow like people who are interested in going to that society to meet up with one another. I must say ACS was my favourite society, and I'm not just saying that because Jess is here, but honestly it was my home away from home. And in Freshers Week they actually did an event called Meet and Eat, Meet and Eat, Eat and Meet, Meet and meet, something to do with eating. Eat and meet. Is it eat and meet? Meet and greet. Listen, I don't know. It had eat in it. So I was there. And they give away free pizza. Of course I'm going to be there, right? So that was a really good event because it allowed me to meet other ACS members from different colleges. And because I was doing netball as well, that was another opportunity to meet other students from other colleges and different years as well. And naturally, like within, like in your department, when you go to lectures, you're going to find friends who go to different colleges studying the same course as you. So honestly, there's plenty of opportunity. You're not just confined to friends within your college. Jess, if you want to add anything.
What do I say? I don't know. I just had the best time. I honestly had the best time in first year. I was just about like obviously I went to basically every ACS event. So that ACS was like very much part of my life in first year. But also like Oxford does a ridiculous amount of like talks from like external speakers that just come to colleges, and like they're free to attend. You can just like show up. So like my college does a lot of that. Like this year we had like the screenwriter who made Top Boy come into our college and do like a Q&A with us. So like
That's
stuff
lit.
like that. I would just meet people. Yeah, it was educational, and then I was making friends as well because I was meeting people in the crowds, and I got to talk to him as well. Like, so I just took advantage of all of that. And I can't even remember what the question was, but there's like loads of stuff for you to do and have a good time.
For sure. Okay, this is going to have to be the last one because I don't want to keep you guys here for too long, and like I don't want to keep Jess for any much longer. And this is, hey, I didn't even find the, sent in by Didy Mody again, and she asks, is the teaching style the same in colleges or does it differ from college to college? Shall I go for? Let me go for. I'll go first. So for medicine first year, I found that the biggest difference between different colleges was the number, like the workload really. So some colleges, Christchurch, were setting their students mad amounts of work in comparison to my college. So they were having like 4 to 5 tutorials, which meant they had 4 to 5 essays, whereas at Brasenose, I don't know if we're like chill or normal, but we would have like 1 to 2 tutorials and essays a week. But then again, the essays that were being, all the workload that was being set at Christchurch per tutorial might have been less, so it might have leveled out. I guess it really depends on your tutors and their style of teaching and what they specialize in. So at Brasenose, Jess will know that we have this professor called Dr. Dennis, and Dr. Dennis's style is very, very distinct in the sense that out of all the tutors, for his tutorials, you're not allowed to bring in any notes or make any notes. He literally thrives off conversation, so he expects, like in every tutorial,
vibes.
She said vibes. Okay, I'm glad.
Is that not true?
Jess, I'm glad you like it because I didn't. I was the sort of person that I felt like I didn't have the confidence yet to be able to just talk about science like that. I needed to have some sort of notes. Like imagine just sitting in a room, nothing, just you, yourself, and your wristwatch to be speaking about genetics.
Just you and vibes. Just
you and vibes. Where? No. I need some. Okay, right. In first year, we were learning some mad names of drugs in pharmacology, and sometimes due to the stress that I was undergoing in the tutorial, like the names of the drugs would just slip my mind. If I had my notes, I could just glance quickly and say it to my tutor. But more time I was in my tutorials looking so stupid as if I didn't learn anything at all, solely because I'd like forgotten everything. But yeah, So in my tutorials, they're the style of teaching, whereas at other tutorials in different colleges, you're allowed to bring in notes. It might be presentation styled. It's very variable. It depends on your tutor, to be honest.
Word. That's basically exactly what I would say. The only, because obviously each college has like the same structure. So like we have tutorials, like you have seminars and lectures and like the main school, whatever. The only difference is like your tutor's individual teaching style and how much work they feel is right to set you. So that's only like, that's kind of where it changes. Some of my tutors are like, do the essay before the tutorial and then bring it to me and then we'll talk about it in the tutorial. Some of them prefer for us to talk about the concepts we're going to write in the essay first and then write. But like, even from tutor to tutor in college, kind of like what Francesca was saying, from tutor to tutor, you have different teaching styles. So there'll definitely be like small variations from college to college as well.
For sure. All right, okay, we've actually reached the end of today's live stream. We've ran over time by 5 minutes, but thank you to all the people that have kind of stayed for the whole duration. You guys are real ones. Thank you to Jess as well for agreeing to be here and answering questions. Even if like half the time her answers were just based off vibes. I love it. I hope you guys have enjoyed yourself as well as learning more about the collegiate system at Oxford. Sorry to those who I couldn't get through your questions during this live stream. Many of you were asking about the experiences at individual colleges. What I can recommend is following the JCR pages. JCR stands for Junior Common Room on Instagram. So if you're interested in Teddy Hall College, following the Teddy Hall Instagram page, Brasenose similarly, Brasenose JCR Instagram page. And yeah, if you have any questions that you want to ask either me or Jess, check our Instagram details down below and just send us a DM. There's actually kids shouting outside my window. The ghetto. But yeah, I'm gonna end this live. We're gonna love you and leave you and see you in the next one. See you later, guys. Bye.
Bye.